So 9.9, you asked for it to be pulled?
Yes, there's members of the public who'd like to speak on it still, and I think that this item is important enough that it merits.
Okay, so this is 9.9 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy adding Chapter 5 to the Gilroy City Code relating to banning the use of certain public rights-of-ways and sleeping or living accommodations. This was heard on May 15th and then voted upon at the meeting on June 5th. Both were open to public comment. The last meeting on June 5th was a public hearing. Here we are tonight, and Ty, can you...
So Robert, you're here. Playing on some of the things that were said earlier, I do want to point out that Reed Hillview is being considered to be closed in San Jose. It's another county airport, and we had the same concerns up there with the amount of lead that was being used by the planes that were taken off the landing, especially when they just touch and go. And so we actually forced them to change over to unleaded gas. And that's something you guys can do down here as well. So you can try to minimize the effect of lead on your citizenry. And I think that's something you should look into. So to the unhoused issue, again, I'd like to say that the people that are unhoused are typically victims. They're victims of many different things that cause them to get into this situation. It's not a choice that people make. Most people have difficulty getting out of that situation once they're in it. It's a downward spiral, and so many things can drag you down. Something as little as a $400 debt can actually force people into being unhoused. An illness, whether it's you or a family member, not having a steady job or not being paid enough to be able to pay the rent, having to make a choice between food or paying rent, or any other number of things that can happen. If you're living in your car and all of a sudden you have car trouble and you can't afford that, you end up being out in the street, your car gets towed, and you lose everything that you have. And I know because I've had the same situation. I've lived through this, and I know what goes on out in the streets because I do also go out and talk to people throughout the entire county. I'm involved with the California Homeless Union as well as the National Homeless Union, and so I'm aware of things that are going on, not just in Gilroy, not just in Santa Clara County, not just in the state of California, but all across the country. And I've also attended many different meetings with the United Nations on poverty, and the study that's been done there showing how the way we treat people out here in the United States is appalling, that most other countries do not have such an issue because they take care of their people. And I think we should take up that same attitude and try to take care of people as well. And not just be kicking them to the curb and kicking them out, tell them you can't be here, you know, just go somewhere else. We don't care where you go, just not here. And when they get there, they get kicked around again. It happens over and over and over. So again, on this one particular item, I don't think you guys really realize how much damage is going to be caused to so many people that are already victims, that are people that are in survival mode, that are trying to just get their lives back together again. They're not all criminals. They're not all people that are alcoholics or drug addicts or anything else. They're people just like you and I, normal people. And I know I was one myself. So I know that I can articulate very well, I'm educated, but due to unforeseen situations that led me to be in that position, which was basically I had my own business and I was consulting to manufacturers. Where are all the manufacturers today? They're all overseas. Okay, so I was not willing to go and move to China in order to keep my job. So I ended up losing my job. I lost my house because I couldn't make payments on it. I lost my business and all the materials in it because I couldn't afford to pay the storage fees. My life was turned completely upside down. My wife ended up divorcing me as a result of that because I had no real income, not what she was used to. I used to make $200,000 a year, and now I was working at 7-Eleven. That's the sort of thing that happens to people. And as a result of that, I still currently do not have contact with 3 of my children from that same marriage. It has really put me at a real disadvantage in being able to continue and do the kind of work that I was doing. Again, I had no customers. all the manufacturers have moved away, so therefore, it impacted me in a most significant way. So having to live in a car, or having to live in a tent, or having to live just wherever you can, are things that happen to people that put them in a very difficult situation. When you start limiting where people go and telling them that they cannot be in certain locations, and you don't have an alternative place for them to go, then you're really violating them. You become the bully that comes in after somebody has been raped and kick that person around again and violating them one more time. And it creates such a distrust of the way the systems are and how things work. I know that you're trying to control the number of people that are living outdoors. I get that. But this is not the way to do it. What we really need to do is focus on trying to find a safe place for people to go, especially women. The statistic is 50% of all women that are living outdoors have been raped. And that's just unspeakable. And when you continue to push people to the outer limits, then they have no other choice. They have to do that for their own protection. And they give into it because they know that that's the only thing that they can do. And that's the position you're putting a lot of people into, where they're forced to do things that they would not normally choose to do.
My name is Tristia Bauman. I am the directing attorney of housing at the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. I appeared at the last hearing to describe the vast amount of personal experience I have with lawsuits and policies that criminalize homelessness. I won't go over that again. I also won't ad nauseum repeat what I have provided in a written comment to the council today. But I want to make a few points clear. The city does not know whether it can enforce this ordinance consistent with the Constitution. It has done an incomplete analysis of what space is available for the resting conduct that is protected under Martin and under Johnson, the City of Grants Pass. The analysis is not complete. The city is risking liability under an 8th Amendment theory. This is to say nothing of the lack of clarity that people who are unhoused have now about where they may lawfully rest. The city cannot constitutionally exclude all people who are too poor to afford housing and who do not have access to shelter from the city limits. People don't know where they can be. That lack of clarity and enforcement against people who are expected to conform their conduct with the prohibition can lead to a due process claim against the city. There's not enough analysis. And this is to say nothing of the fact patterns that can be developed as people are routinely displaced and dispossessed of their property at each moment of enforcement. The city is going down a road that will harm all of us. And I say this as a Gilroy resident and a mom of a child enrolled in a Gilroy Unified School District school. I want what's best for this community. And federal guidance provides guidance to cities about what is best. We need to identify places where people can safely be. If we don't want people in the parks or along creeks or along roadways, we need to provide adequate, safe, secure, stable places where people can be, where they can meet their survival needs. It's really that simple. It's best practice, and it's what the federal government does. Thank you.
My name is Todd Langton. I'm not a citizen of Gilroy. I just moved to Hollister from San Jose. I run a nonprofit called Agape Silicon Valley. We're a whole bunch of volunteers who go out and serve the homeless. Our philosophy and our approach is to enhance the standard of living of the unhoused. And there's this big, huge misperception and unfounded myths about the homelessness. From my understanding, from my perspective, and I go out there regularly, weekly, there's a lot of good people out there. And we know that what happens when drugs and alcohol can cause a good person to make foolish mistakes. Most of the individuals that are homeless are very good people. They need our helping hand. When you abate them, when you sweep them and move them from one neighborhood to the next, it just causes more problems, more stress, more anxiety, more depression, and they make more frequent foolish decisions. I urge you to discard this vote that's coming up to ban them from places, as we need to show more compassion for our unhoused. They are your neighbors, your friends, and some of your family members. And I hope that we all wake up to serving our unhoused in the way that we should. There's a better way to do it than sweeping and abating. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that we have a humanitarian crisis going on in Silicon Valley, going on in the state of California. We need to act accordingly. When we have abatements, there should be, I've seen so many abatement flyers out at the camps. You have the name of the abatement, the date, and when it's going to happen. But what there should be in the second part of the abatement is, here's where you can go, multiple places, the third part, and we're going to help you get there. But there's not that. We need to be humane about our actions. I just want to follow up on the previous speaker's comments. The city of Chico, I don't believe they're too far different than the city of Gilroy as far as size. But they did learn from Martin versus Boise. I urge all of you to Google Warren versus Chico and study what happened there. Just, I think it was about 4 years ago. And I just want to read a small little article. This is after the courts found in favor of the litigants against the city of Chico. According to the most recent statistics of the city, the initial startup cost for the pallet shelter cost was more than $3.7 million, while running the operational costs could run $1.5 million for at least the next 5 years. This isn't to mention, and that's the community that the pallet shelter community that the city of Chico had to build after they lost the lawsuit. This doesn't count the $650,000 that they had to pay for the legal fees for the two litigants. So it's just not good sense, it's common sense you don't want to do this. I urge you at least to postpone this until you have adequate shelters. If you're going to abate someone, you need to have somewhere for them to go. That is common sense. That is how you would want your family member treated if they were out there. And I suspect some of your family or friends or neighbors are out there in the fields and streets. Treat them humanely. This sounds cliche, we hear this a lot in the advocate arena. We as Americans, especially Californians, tend to treat our pets much better than we do our fellow citizens. What you're proposing is simply not right. Follow the advice of people who know, the previous two speakers, and Jan Bernstein-Chargan, who lives and operates with compassion here in Gilroy. This is not the right thing to do. I urge you to postpone it. At the very least, I hope that you abate this amendment, but at the very least, postpone it until you have an adequate place for these people to go. That is the humane thing to do. You know it. I urge you to vote your conscience, not the status quo. Thank you.
Hello, Wes White, leader of Monterey County Homeless Union, part of the Poor People's Campaign, the National Call for Moral Revival, National Union on Homeless, California Homeless Union. I mean, we do get around, and we are trying to shape policy. I'm kind of sad at this point. I don't think we're going to get any change of difference of opinion here, and probably end up being 6-1. And so I kind of urge the public here in Gilroy, you know, to register to vote and get involved in politics and actually take over these seats so that the job can actually get done humanely and correctly. We're not really getting very far the way it is. So, I mean, it's a common club, man. You know, you guys are aspiring and already millionaires and billionaires. You're gainfully employed. You're definitely on an upward track. Shareholders, got stocks. I mean, that's a paper world that many people will not be able to achieve. And now that they're too poor to afford rent, we're going to make money off of them. There's so many industries that we're paying. Police officers get a raise. In Salinas, I hear complaints, man, we go to Gilroy, get paid more and work less and not work as hard and be less stressful and all me. But it's supposed to be about public service. And I understand you gotta balance everything, but you know, there again, you have to balance everything. Where do these people belong? What about the remainder? Some people get placed, some people get housed, but what about the remainder? Just blanket open discrimination is redlining. You know, I mean, we're doing our darndest to treat everyone like a Native American. If you're not paying, then you deserve to die. And that's not a healthy way to do business. It's not a healthy way to raise a society or operate. I mean, I remember hearing all this, oh, it's a Democrat supervisor, I can't believe it. Do it yourselves. Why don't you do better? You're not even trying. Actually, you're hurting people on purpose. You're making the state create a danger. And you're going to see a lot more people in front of your alcoves and downtown, places that you didn't want them before, so you're going to have to chase them out over there too. And so who gets paid? And who's paying is human suffering, eventual death. I don't see it going any other direction. That's why I think we need to replace some people and replace a mindset so that we actually worry about community, and the entire community, whether they're your favorite friends or people that don't even vote. Treat people better than you treat animals, please. Stop the sweeps. You know, 400 square feet and a structure. Running water and electricity, especially for women. Think about menstruation. There's no, it's disgusting. In Salinas, they pushed everybody into the tracks, and nobody has a porta potty now. They took funding away. You got nobody to help you.
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
Stop the
Thank you.
sweeps.
Ron Kirkfish, you're next.
I suggest that we continue going in the direction that the council has been going in. As you know, I send a lot of people information about issues of several kinds, including the homeless issue. What we normally see in this issue is these people, and I say that in a general manner, I don't think it's offensive, but these folks, if you offer them a lifestyle of a new home or whatever, housing, they don't want it. They want to live the life that they're living. That's not a lie. They have set in their minds that they like what they're doing. They like their drug abuse. They like their alcohol abuse. They don't want to have any restrictions on their nature, on their issues. And so if you put them in a housing, or you put them in this place or that, and that there's a restriction on it, they're saying, I don't want it. I'd rather live on a sidewalk. So this is what we have to deal with. This is the kind of decision you have to make. What do we want for our city? Do we want people that refuse to accept housing because they want to keep going with their lifestyle? I don't think that's what we should approve of and encourage. Thank you.
I'm Christian Montago. I've never been homeless or anything, but I believe in doing things right. And like this is our city. We're all living here right now. Best thing is to do things right. And with the homeless control, or at the homeless where it's at right now, I think there was like a city that or a country, I forget which country it was, that said homeless at one city, I think it was China or somewhere around China. It said like homeless was illegal. So like they banned being homeless. And I guess people said comments on that was the best time to live. But with the homeless things, I think there is a solution. We all gotta get stronger as people, and work as a whole. Because if we keep fighting, I don't know, I don't think it's a fight, but I personally think that we gotta get stronger as a unit, keep working as a unit. We gotta work together. So we all gotta help out. Can't just be one-sided. We all gotta help out. So that's what I think that's what I know we should do. And my areas, like I said, I got the downtown area. I'm a barber over there, Frank's Barbershop. And it's not really much homeless. I try to spread my positivity. I go to San Jose, it's a whole different city, but I see the homeless people in the park. I spread my positivity. I walk to the park because I like, seeing kids at the park. But we do gotta know what's the right move instead of the wrong moves, because the wrong moves are wrong moves, and the right moves are the right moves. So I think if we do things right, it could go the right way. So until there's the right solution, which is the solution, which is the best solution, that's the solution. So until then, we gotta find what's the best solution.
I'm going to bring it back to council discussion because the public hearing for this was at the last meeting. We had lots of people commenting for and against, so this is not at all representative of what was here at the last meeting. This item is just coming back to us for the official of the ordinance, but it's been pulled. So Councilmember Armendariz, do you want to say anything before I ask for? Okay, go ahead.
But I do think that this, the comments tonight were representative. We had a good amount of folks advocating against this ordinance. But tonight I'm not going to try to appeal to the humanity or kindness or a sense of equality of this council, but I am going to suggest that we be cautious in how we move forward. We've been warned about possible litigation and liability that we face, and also a number of downtown business owners are really looked at the map and analyzed it and understand that the unforeseen circumstances or consequences of this ordinance could be that we're pushing our unhoused people downtown. We could be pushing them into residential areas, right? Given the map and the way it's laid out and the way this ordinance is written, that's essentially what we'll be doing, because the sidewalks downtown are ADA compliant and people could fit there sitting, lying, or standing. So I want us to be cautious about that. And I urge my colleagues to rethink this and vote no.
Okay, thank you. If no one else is going to comment, I'm just going to say one thing and then I'll take a motion if no one else is commenting. But just to speak to those who were here, this is not trying to control the number of people who live outdoors. This is not criminalizing homelessness. This is not about not wanting people to be. This is not about addressing homelessness at all. This is about addressing public safety. And so for those who were here at the last meeting and the one before that, it's public safety from actual events. That's what we're trying to do, is to balance the aspect of all of the reports and complaints that we have been getting from issues that are near schools and children. This is not an effort to decide how or what should be for the homeless. And my report, I realized when I went and looked at the recording, was over 8 minutes long, trying to explain to people what those services are, where the monies come from homelessness. This ordinance is about public safety, protecting public infrastructure, bridge supports, waterways that we drink, things like that. So whether or not we're successful is part two, but this is what this ordinance is about. It's not about addressing homelessness. Does anyone else want to make a comment or a motion?
Motion.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Bracco.
Second.
And seconded by Councilmember Tovar to adopt, right, to adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy adding Chapter 5 to the Gilroy City Code relating to banning the use of certain public rights-of-way as sleeping or living accommodations.
Councilmember Medeiros?
No?
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Binkley.
Yes. All right, that passed 5-1 with 1 absent.